Here. Got it.
Okay, yeah, I'm on now, so I'll call the meeting to order and I'll look for my clerk for roll.
Thank you, Worship. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the April 14th council meeting. I'm Jennifer Connor, Clerk of Ramara Township. I'll begin with roll call of council. Mayor Clark.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Bell.
Present.
Councillor Snatch.
Present.
Councillor Fisher.
Present.
Councillor Tuyu. Present. Councillor Goff. Councillor Goff is absent. Councillor Bell.
Present.
Thank you.
This meeting is being streamed live on the Township of Ramara YouTube channel. Be advised that by attending a public meeting of the Council of the Township of Ramara, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded and will form a part of the public record. The chair, CAO, and/or clerk have the discretion and authority to terminate or interrupt the live streaming in exceptional circumstances where the content of debate is considered inappropriate to be published. Thank you.
First, I'll look for the motion to approve the agenda. Madam Clerk.
That the council agenda dated April 14th, 2025, and any additions thereto be adopted as presented.
Thank you. It's moved by Councillor Fisher, second by Councillor Tuyu. Questions, Bryce? Agenda. Just for everybody, this is a new process that we're following here, so we'll try and go slowly and not get lost as our new structure where every meeting is now a council meeting, so it's bi-weekly. So with that, I will call for the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Do I have disclosure of pecuniary interest made by the council? Not see any, but if you find yourself in that situation later, please declare it at that time. Next, I have announcements. Yes, I do have a few. I guess pretty hard to go on without talking about the storm here. So to start with, I want to send a special thanks to the road crew. This has been a year like I've never seen. With the snowstorm we had earlier in the year that I think set all the records. Those fellows strive to keep the roads open for us. And with this ice storm, which I'm going to call the storm of the century, we haven't seen anything like this in 100 years. And those folks were out there in terrible conditions, clearing these roads and trying to keep them open. And my hats are off to them, but it wasn't just them this time. We had to declare an emergency and every department stepped up. It's something that I'm very proud of how the municipality worked their way through this with the firefighters out there with more calls than they'd ever seen at a time when you're trying to deal with an ice storm. Bylaw was doing wellness checks and all of the staff that were coming in and keeping our warming centers open. And these were staff themselves that were going home to houses with no heat, no hydro, and then coming back in the next day to help out and volunteering their time on the weekend so that they could keep those warming centers open. And I want to thank them from the bottom of my heart, but it even goes beyond that. When you look out at the support we had from the Bracket Legion, warm place, we had volunteers from the Lions Club call, wanting to know how they could help. And I had over 20 phone calls myself of just residents in this township that wanted to help. They'd call up and say, what can I do to help? It's always the same message: check on your neighbors, make sure anybody that needs help around you. And there were so many citizens like this when I was driving around the township. I think of one down on Plum Point Road where, and this guy was cleaning his yard, and I was chatting with him, and that's his concern was the widow at the end of the road. He said, yeah, after the storm, I cleared a path so that her son could get in to check on her. And everybody's concern was about their neighbors. And that really does show the quality that we have in this township. You always get the one or two haters online. They never go away. But what really makes you proud, this is when true Canadians step up. And this community really did step up and help each other out through this time. And we came through it well. And I shouldn't say this, but I'm saying it as mayor, not as board. I think we got through it faster than ever our neighboring. So through the same shoot, we had our roads open at record time. We had hydro here. Those guys, I can't even imagine being out in some of the dirty conditions that those hydro workers were trying to do this. And when the time came, hydro did step up. There was over almost 800 crews by the end. The crew that got my power on was New Brunswick. They were here away from their families helping out. That's what Canadians are all about. So I just hats off to everybody that stepped up and helped. And with that, I have now it's very sad. This is Ashley's last meeting. And Ashley joined the organization in October 2014, began her journey, and I remember this infrastructure department. Yes. And her passion for helping others and drive to make a broader impact soon led to her taking on a more corporate role. I remember we'd all take our cell phones. Ashley was the fix-it person. Whenever we couldn't figure out what was all their devices, we'd run over to Ashley and she'd get us back on the straight and narrow. In her current position in communications and community engagement, Ashley has worked diligently to establish clear, consistent, and reliable messaging for both the community and staff. She's played a key role in shaping how the organization communicates internally and externally. I have trouble getting through this. Among her many accomplishments, Ashley's led the development of the township's website and was instrumental in creating corporate communications function from the ground up. And she is a team player. She's been here and one of the volunteers that came in to volunteer her time, even on her days off. We're dealing with this emergency. So listen, we wish you the very best. You've always been a team player. I know you've got some plans for the recent future, but you certainly will be missed by myself and all of them. So thank you. Table, any other announcements? So any format, we can start now. Councillor two.
Thank you. Yesterday, I was able to attend the Ching Conservancy AGM, which was really neat, especially well with our newly formed Climate Action Committee. I guess we're still waiting on members, but it's nice to be able to meet with some of the movers and shakers, the network, get some ideas and see all the good work there to get inspiration.
Thank you. Councillor Fisher.
Thank you. I spent almost every day at the Legion during the storm, and I know that you've touched on Legion, so I'm not go down that road, but also stopped in at the ones that work staff. So we're also within the hour. But yesterday was actually breakfast with the Easter Bunny. Those same volunteers that were in the Legion every day. They extended up until offering meals and more places for families to go and individuals to church and eat. We're then back again yesterday as well with the Lions. So they didn't. I'm sure they did.
Deputy Mayor.
I guess Saturday, Councilor Sludge joined me for Culture Appreciation Night.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you. I just want to remark that I'm not wearing sunglasses because I make up cool. My eyes are still very bothered by fluorescent light, so I have to keep them on just now. So
Keep them on.
I'm not hiding.
Always your health first, so yeah, keep them on and we understand. So that, presentations, I have none. Public and special meetings of council, none. Deputations, I have none. Open forum, members of the public wishing to speak. I don't have
Nothing to worship.
so I don't have any, so I'll just move on. So minutes, we don't have any because our last meeting was a council meeting. So now I need a motion to recess and reconvene in the committee of the whole. So I could move by Councillor Bell, second by Councillor Snudge, so we meet in the committee of the whole at 9:39. All in favor? That's carried. Second. So. So with that, the first one I have is, report at the tender report ID 07-25 be received and that council enter into a contract with Stone Line for the pavement marking requirements of various roads within the township and have been successful bidder. Questions or comments on this? I'll look for a move in a second. Moved by Councillor Fisher, second by Councillor Bell. So all in favor? Scary. Next one I have is Pulver's. The report ID 09-25 be received by the council enter into a contract with Lisbon Paving for infrastructure tender ID 04-2025 pulverizing. Successful bidder be notified of council. So on this time, moved by Councillor Fisher, second by Councillor. Questions or comments on the tender? All in favor? Carry. Here. Third tender that report ID 1025 be received from the council, enter into a contract with CRH and the infrastructure tender ID 0525 surface treatment. Successful bidder notified council approved by Councillor Snatch, second by Deb. Questions on this tender? Seeing any, all in favor? That's carried. Number 4, I'm up to that. Report ID 1125, received the council entered into a contract with property construction for infrastructure tender ID 06-2025 gravel. And successful bidder notified of council by Councillor Fisher, second by Councillor Toohey. Questions on the gravel tender? All in favor? That's carried. Infrastructure winter maintenance, that report ID 1225 be received and the council approved the extension of the winter maintenance contract for 2025, 2026 and 2026-2027 winter season. That CRH candidate group notified council approval by Councillor Bell, second by Councillor Fisher. Questions on this tender? Seeing any, all in favor? It's carried. Engineering, the report ID 1325 received and that council approved Tatum Engineering as the township's consultant for engineering infrastructure services for the period up and including December 31st, 2026, and the staff prepare a report back to council on January 2027 options, recommendations for future consultant services. Moved by Councillor Toohey, second by Deputy Mayor. Questions or comments on engineering tender? Just one, I guess, if it's gonna go to December 31st, but you're not bringing the report till January. Is there, I guess, an extension if council at that time were to go with the tender, how do we bridge that gap? Andrew?
Thank you through your worship. My thought would be ultimately that the hope was we had most of the projects covered at that point in time. Anything that was already met, then we continued working on. And ultimately with the approval on the capital budget, had some time to actually also hire consultants or extend. That's what you wish.
Thank you. Questions on that? All in favor? That's carried. 10, report ID 1425 received council approved the purchase of 2025 Western Star tandem plow dump combination truck from B&I Fleet Truck Center, amount of $450,676.72, including township's non-recoverable HST and that B&I Fleet Truck Center be notified of council approval by Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Toohey. Questions on motion? Deputy Mayor, just wanted to be confirm that it's contractors. Andrew?
Thank you through your worship. We actually have a $5,000 tariff built into this just in case. That would be the cost that the tariff gets a cent fee at this point. So ultimately, if the tariffs don't apply, have that $5,000. It is in that.
Thank you. Any other comments? Not seeing any. All in favor? That is carried. And lastly, the work council's advice from the Ice Storm Recovery Plan, the report ECG 01-25 received council support 2025 Ice Storm Restoration Recovery Plan, and staff be authorized to enter into contracts to enable the restoration work to be completed, and that the goods and services procurement policy utility bylaw 2024-82 being the procurement bylaw being waived for the purposes of the 2025 Ice Storm Restoration Recovery Plan, and the staff be directed to provide status updates on the Restoration Recovery Plan to the council via the communication information package. The staff be authorized to work with the mayor and designate advocate to the province, federal, and other agencies as available for emergency funding and support. So I'll put that on the floor. Deputy Mayor and Councillor Fisher. Open it up for discussion. Wants to start. Deputy Mayor, you wanna lead us off?
Sure, no, I think this is a great plan and I'm all for it. I think there's like driving around the township, there's a lot of hangers. It's hard for the house to indicate should be like. Because we want to procure this prior to people being filled up from summer, right? So we should get ahead of this. I just want to make sure that by being able to procure it's already, I think that that will affect the funds.
Ms. Jackson, our CEO, do you wanna try that? I don't think it would, but look for confirmation.
Through you, your worship, we would absolutely confirm that with the province. We are going to be meeting with the province on a fairly regular basis to discuss this potential funding opportunity. The reason for this is just to ensure that we can expedite any awards of contract. So we will absolutely confirm that. To my knowledge, it will not impact because again, sort of the emergency recovery stage of the emergency declaration. So, but we will confirm absolutely that it will not adversely impact our ability to get funding.
Any other questions? Councillor Bell.
Thank you. I see that you'll do updates by memo, which is great. And I guess I just have a question will the ice storm response page stay up as well? Updated recovery or will you swap? Just so that residents know where to respond.
Yeah.
Through your worship, absolutely, that recovery page will remain. At this time, we will absolutely let members of council know when it does come down.
Just one follow. Okay, thank you. I just had one other question as well. And this is maybe a small thing. But I wondered about wood chipping and whether if chips could be left at community centers or somewhere within communities, which would maybe cut down on travel time and cost, but also residents use them to do their gardens in the spring. So then that might be accessible for residents and have the benefit of less cost. So good plan, maybe.
Andrew.
Thank you. Through your worship to Councillor Bell. We have, as part of our plan, we've been trying to figure out where wood chips can go. Ultimately, our hope would be that most of it can go back onto the road allowance, not in the ditches, but on road allowance. Where it cannot, we are going to set up yard 1, 2, and 3 for wood chips in an area. So certainly the public would wood chips.
And certainly counties planning the same thing when they're in the area. We're gonna make sure that it is posted on a map with timelines so that the locals know when they're in the area, because what we encourage people to do is please don't throw the brush on the road, but have it out at the edge of the road so that as we're coming through the area, we pick up everything. There's just too much. It's gonna end up in the landfill one way or the other. So sometimes it's safer if the crews pick it up on their way through. Councillor Snodge, go ahead.
Yeah, that was a question I had because I believe all the notices that are going out do not place the brush on township property. And I don't quite get that because a lot of these houses, you could have a township allowance back 30 to 40 feet. We don't want people walking back there to go on people's property, get brush. Well, why are we allowed to put it on the side of the road?
Well, off the travel portion.
That's not what it says.
No, it says put it at the edge of the road allowance, because we won't be going on private property either. That's why we want to advertise when we're in the area. Grab it as you come.
So can anyone clarify where that is supposed to go? On township property or on private property?
Well, on the county roads, we haven't got our plan together here yet on how we're gonna deal with it here at our level.
Thank you through your worship. The thought process for us is ultimately we'll start street by street. We're looking at doing it by our plow routes, which obviously takes the higher traveled roads first and then down to the lower roads. The county would like it at roadside, obviously, for the trucks to pick up. So that's where our feeling is that we are not going to go down the street and not pick it up. It's ultimately with our rules. I think it kind of conflicts slightly if we go down and picking up road allowance material, leaving the opposite stuff, we're going to pick it up too. So we'll be in touch with the county. Hopefully we can work with the county and say, hey, we've got that street covered, send the forces. Indeed, it will brush, will go out to property, not property. That's
Right, so I think what we have to do is clarify, because I've seen it both places, but if it's on township property, then we need to clarify that with residents. Some people are thinking you can't put it on township property, and I think recess back 50 feet, so. That was one.
through your worship, here. Excellent. Sure that happens.
The other thing I'd like to do with this ice storm recovery plan, is I think the 500,000 is extremely low. I honestly think we're talking in the millions of dollars here. When I drove up Switch Road today, I think you'd have to take a team of about 10 people, probably a week to clean just that one road, and then you multiply it. I'm wondering what we can do to get volunteers and our own crews together. I know there's liability issues in that, but I've seen a lot of people are doing it anyway. I don't know why we wouldn't pump the money right back to workers, maybe a lower rate. I don't know what we're being charged by these people just to drag push out of the woods. I've seen it in action a lot of places, at the Kuchiching Golf Course, which was absolutely destroyed. It's taking a team of 10 people almost, probably 3 or 4 days just to get one hole. And so I don't know what we can do to try to, as a community thing, to get our community looking better, put crews together that are either volunteers or people who come up with a reasonable sort of a wage for DM could be a lot cheaper than, and get people to drag that bush to the side of the road and cut it up into logs. I don't know how we would approach that, but I think this is a cleanup that's going on for substantially long period of time. And why can't we get it done faster with our own local volunteers?
And
Through your worship, I think the biggest challenge that we have as volunteers is that we're not covered. So it's a liability to the township. So ultimately, if they're cutting, if we volunteer people and they come out with a chainsaw and they don't have a chainsaw license and they hurt themselves, the township is liable. So ultimately, don't typically use volunteers to do cleanup efforts that are above and beyond that. Okay.
Right, but you wouldn't have, you could probably put together a team for someone, they wouldn't be working with chainsaws, but usually what I've seen in some of the places, it's one guy on a chainsaw and 4 guys hauling bush to the side of the road. Why can't we get our own bush haulers and pay $50 an hour or whatever the average wage is for people to haul brush out of the side of the road, bring it up to where we can get it?
Sure. The thought is, what we've seen and heard that works very well is crews, when they're working through, they will actually just continue right down. A lot of them are using excavators and just picking the brush up and pulling it off the township property to the chipper. And right now, we're finding a lot of material is out. People are pulling that. It's just on the opposite side of the private property. Swamp. We'll have to keep that area. A lot of the properties that are actually residential in nature are a lot of the materials on. So
And the other thing that I was going to bring up is that I think we have to be careful not to rush out, pick up all this brush, because we're going to be doing it 10 times. I know hardly anybody, well, any of the seasonal people haven't seen their properties yet. We're still a disaster. And they're all going to come up on May 2-4. And there's a lot of bush out there in June, probably throughout the whole year. So I would run around and start picking all this stuff up, because we're going to have to do it again and again and again. And that's why we want to make sure we advertise well in an area, probably cottage roads till later. More folks will be there to clean up, I assume.
And through you, worship, our thought for that process was county is talking about picking up debris for a number of weeks, well, months and months through your worship. I think it's like May. guarantee at this point in time. So it would be the hope that we clean up our areas and those people that come up to their cottages, whether it's major for a weekend or whatever, we'll put it out, and then the county, well, still have that opportunity as well. Still, we'll probably have to push the area on at that point in time, so expecting lots to attention.
Sorry.
So,
Yeah, how long will it take for the 500,000 stuff?
Worship, we're thinking we have some prices, roughly about $3,000 a day. It's typically 3 to 5,000.
100 days
Yeah.
or more. So that's not gonna be enough to even come close. So can you not see a way that we could use volunteers to speed this up?
Certainly.
I mean, I would like to request if everybody else agrees that we explore that to the end degree. Gail, go ahead, Gail.
Your worship, if I can, in understanding principally, it would be ideal to use volunteers and probably far more cost effective. But your worship, if I can, just in terms of this process, it will be quite an undertaking to actually contract, the appropriate, businesses to do this work for us. We have to ensure that the municipality is protected from an insurance perspective, that's as well. And to, the other point is that from a resource perspective, it will be very difficult to try to ultimately gather a bunch of volunteers, manage those volunteers, ensure that they're in the areas that they should be. So we have limited resources, as you're well aware, Mr. Mayor. And so ultimately, I think that if communities wanted to gather their own volunteers and ultimately get the debris ready for pickup, that would probably be ideal off of the properties and so on. But in terms of asking the township to coordinate a volunteer effort, I do believe that extremely time consuming and much more to not resources. It will be an undertaking, as I say, to ultimately contract with the businesses that are out there, and that will take a lot of time to do that.
Yeah, I would rather steer volunteers towards helping their neighbors clear their property or seniors that aren't able to clear their property. Tony, do you have a comment on that? Fire chief?
Yeah, through your worship. Just for a point of clarity, really, I'm gathering from the conversation, we're a little hung up on the $500,000 mark. I just wanted to be clear that the 500,000 is the threshold that we'll be able to get. It's not a limit we have to spend to. Once we hit 500,000, which is approximately 3% of our total budget, then we qualify from that point for up to 75% claim back. Once we go over 500,000, we can get up to 95% back. So there isn't a threshold on the amount we can claim. It's just there's a threshold that when we can put in a claim. So hopefully that clarifies things a bit for the cost.
The concern today is if we hit $490,000, we're paying the whole cost. So discussion around the table, I don't think 500,000 is gonna be a problem. At least it's not. So I have the deputy mayor and the council bill.
So even if we get into June, we can always have a backup plan to add to cover for these.
Okay, Councillor Bell.
Thank you. Sorry, this could be more educational or informational, but, and I understand why we plow routes and it makes great sense. So I support that. But I guess I do have one question, which is we have some areas as we're coming into spring season and see a lot more seasonal residents here. We do have areas along the lake shore, for example, where there's so much brush about and parking is going to start to become an issue. So that perhaps that pedestrians push back walking down that yellow line. So what process could a resident access? Would it just be a regular reported concern process, inviting someone to report that a particular section is maybe in need of care before that snowplow will get you there? Or is there some other process that you would want residents to use to identify areas of more sort of severe concern?
Andrew.
Through your worship, our thought process at this point in time was we have 3 staff our plan is they will go out and actually oversee cleanup. They will focus on the things that have to. Over the last week or two, making notes where the most devastation is. So hope that we have to focus on those major risks. So that's already been planned for. The hope is to get our parks and beaches and green space and trails open first, and then we'll look into the most hidden areas. I still believe we should focus more on the larger travel roads, but ultimately we'll see is they're not as bad devastations. So ultimately, we could, I guess we would recommend that people use the system for calling in and put it on citywide, mark their ticket. They can help them that way. And they sort of use that as a way to prioritize areas before we have them on.
Yeah, that's concerned too, because all of a sudden somebody will just throw a bunch of brush out in a spot that isn't safe, so that they need, they'll call complaint citywide. And that's one of the concerns we had too, when people are putting their brush out, we don't want to block culverts, which is why we've been very not forthcoming with putting it on the road, because we're heading through a flood season here. We want to make sure those ditches were still flowing, but as we head out of that now and we head more into cleanup, that was the next concern. Other comments or concerns, Deputy Mayor?
Say if we just can we look at some kind of advertising, so.
Through you, your worship, certainly we'll take that under consideration and have a discussion with communications to see the best way to ensure that the public is well aware of the areas that we're in. So absolutely, we'll take that under advisement. We can ensure that our residents are aware of what is going on.
Okay, other concerns moving forward? There's gonna be lots of the cleanup, I'm sure. Counselor to you.
Thank you. I guess I'm just hoping that there's a bit of misunderstanding or miscommunication. I guess some residents think, or they're a bit irritated at the idea of bundling these giant tree branches into 30-centimeter bundles for county pickup. And I'm just really hoping that someone's able to clarify, yes, that's county for the purpose of the yard waste guy who's picking up those bundles physically, but there will be, in fact, whether it's us or Hydro or the Bell people coming along and those larger branches, just so everybody can stop worrying about the 30 cent.
Yeah, I guess we get the tag out on our website, Ashley, the county one I sent you, where we're saying put it out in two piles. I mean, we prefer the small stuff bundle if you can, but it's not required. It just makes it quicker, but we want everything in two separate piles. And the yard waste guys with the compactor truck can pick up the small stuff now, but the larger stuff, no, we'll be back later. Counselor Fisher.
Thank you. I'm not sure if staff has any information about this or not. But the hydro bugs, yeah. They also brought down bell wires and still see a lot of bell wires. So I don't know if anyone's in contact with maybe not bell, telecommunication lines on the ground. It's had conversations with any of the telecommunication stuff.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Thank you through your worship. At this point in time, we have not had any communication with Bell. They, to say the least, have been challenging to deal with for locates for 911. Obviously, they're very busy doing what they have to do right now. We will, I will actually make a note and we'll try and reach out, find a contact for apologies.
Okay. Tony, go ahead, Chief.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just as follow up to that, typically, because we've seen it in a lot of just regular wires down calls that the fire service attends. When it comes to telecommunication, the best advocate for that is the actual people using it. Because they're paying a monthly bill and Bell will listen to that. Usually when an emergency service calls, they just say, oh, it's not dangerous, don't worry about it. They'll get to it. So I would just say, if you're talking to your constituents, to tell them to keep calling in and it'll get resolved fairly quick that way.
Okay, any other questions, comments? So I'll look for I think I had a mover and a seconder, didn't I, Madam Clerk?
Did you worship?
So all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So now, I have part. Do you need a break to get set? We did change any of the motion, so we can roll right.
We can roll ready to do it, Commissioner.
Okay, so I'll look for a motion to rise, and reconvene as council at 10:06 by Councillor Bell, second by Councillor Fisher. All in favor? That is carried. This is the part where I was gonna turn the motions over to you. Madam Clerk.
The agenda is laid out. This is all to be passed in one motion. I've drafted a motion that I can read if you wish. We're actually having issues with our microphones, Your Worship. So if I can describe it as this is like our adopting the committee report. So put on the consent portion of council agenda dated April 14th be adopted as presented.
That's on all the reports. Moved by Councillor Fisher, second by the deputy mayor. All in favor? That is carried. Go ahead now. So correspondence from council, of course, we don't have any on this one, so there's no postponed motions, planned motions, deputation motions, notice of motion, council motions and inquiry motions. So just the bylaws, correct? Make
That's
sure I didn't
correct, Your
miss
Worship.
So I have the confirmation bylaw, the bylaw 2025. The bylaw confirmed the proceedings of the council meeting held on the 14th day of April 2025 be considered read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Moved by Councillor Bell, second by Councillor Fisher. All in favor? That is carried. That's the bylaw we have to pass to ratify everything done, which is what happened in council a month ago. We never got to that bylaw. Recommendation that we now adjourn at 10:07 a.m. Moved by Councillor Schnutz, second by Councillor Fisher. All in favor? That is carried.